Greetings. This read is going to be for Zeds, but before we get to the read, we're going to give you a two-parter here. Stace and I have been working on starting to invite people as guests and to let them maybe tell our stories. It's one of the things that are, our stories, their stories. Our stories we tell well, and you'll hear our stories kind of play out through the readings. But my son, this is my son Ben. He was born in 2005. At the time, I was married to someone in the military, his biological dad. And I will just tell you all, his biological dad has been out of his life for since he was probably 6 or 7. So one of the unfortunate things about military is there's a lot of things that we know our soldiers suffer from, and I won't go into that person's background, but I will say that he initially in life was what most people would call a military brat. And we're doing this first part because Ben has agreed. First of all, Ben asked Stace and I last week if we would do a read for him, and I said to him, well, baby, didn't you see the Sag read? And I'm pretty sure that energy was for you. And he's like, yeah, but you know, I really want to do a read that's just for me. And we thought about it, Stace and I thought about it, and we agreed that we know that one of the things he's doing is he's thinking about love and connection in the universe. And so we asked him if he would maybe consider being our very first interviewee so that he can kind of set the pace and tone for others. And because he's my son and I know his backstory, he has agreed to just let me tell it as simple as possible for the viewership. And then after we do this first part, we're going to do a second part with him that will be very specifically for Twin Flame Reads. So that's what he's helping us kick off this week. So while I was pregnant with Ben, I was about 7 months pregnant with Ben. His biological dad and I were I guess we were PCS'd down to Fort Polk, Louisiana. And we were PCS'd in the middle of Hurricane Katrina. So as we were moving towards what's called Fort Polk, Fort Polk, Louisiana, we were literally passing people that were coming up and out of New Orleans and the areas down there that were related to, you know, we're basically being hit by the hurricane. I want to say about a month and a half, 2 months later, it wasn't very long, and I'd have to relook. And actually, I went down when I was about 5 months pregnant with you. Yeah, so 5 or 6 months pregnant with you. Not long after Katrina, Rita hit Fort Polk head on. It came up what's called the Sabine Pass, and it hit Fort Polk head on. And during that time, I was about 7.5 months pregnant with him. And so, yeah, so we lost all power, all services, gas, you know, access to food, you name it. The one thing that we had, because his biological dad and I lived on the post itself, the one thing we had access to was, you know, running water. And so on a daily while I was pregnant with him, again, 7.5 months, I was taking multiple cold baths to try and cool myself down. And I love to tell this story to Ben so that he can understand how incredibly special and unique I've known he has been for many, since before I had him. About the third night of us having no water, well, I'm sorry, we did have water, of us having no power, no good access to anything, no real way to cool myself down other than these frequent baths I was taking. I was asleep in the middle of the night, and all of a sudden, I felt my bed just shaking. Now, his biological dad was on the bed as well and was kind of rolled over towards the wall. I remember this. And I felt the bed just shaking, and something told me to roll back over, and when I rolled over, what I saw was basically what I guess people would say is an apparition, something that I just absolutely knew, okay, this person is visiting me in spirit form, but yet the bed was shaking. And so when I rolled over, all I could hear was this voice saying, I need you to go, I need you to get up, I need you to go, and like just repeatedly. And because of the time and I knew we'd been hot, I just thought I was, oh, this is a bad dream. I'm seeing this, whatever, this is like just something I shouldn't be seeing, or it's just in my mind or whatever. So initially I ignored it. And I rolled back over and tried to fall right back to sleep. But within just minutes, the bed, again, just started like as if the bed wanted to come up off of, the frame and stuff. So, and at that point, his biological dad rolled over and asked me why I was shaking the bed. And I'm like, I'm not. He's like, okay, well, whatever you're doing, stop it. I wasn't doing anything. I rolled back over, and again, this ghost or spirit or, whoever you want to call it, again started saying, I need you to go, I need you to move, I need you to get up, I need you to go right now. And it was just so urgent from this spirit. It was so crazy. What I recall was I couldn't see the face of the spirit, but I saw that the spirit was in what looked to me like those old 70s army, that kind of, I always call it like a Pusey brown, Pusey brown. Does that make sense? I don't know. I don't know. It's the 70s uniforms, and they were Class A's. The 70s uniform just had their own, I think, style to them. But I could tell it was somebody from, that was gone. And this time around, the second time around, I actually paid attention, and I rolled back over and I woke up his biological dad and said, look, I think I'm seeing things. I don't know what's going on here. Can you just take me into what they call Baines-Jones, BJAC Army hospital, and let's see if there's something wrong with me. There's got to be something wrong with my mind or something. So we go into Baines-Jones emergency room, and lo and behold, I explained to the nurses and the doctors what I was seeing, and I said, I think I'm just losing my mind, and one of the doctors very nicely says to me, well, whatever you were seeing has just, saved your baby's life. Your baby is within hours of you losing your baby, and guess what? We have another lady that around the same pregnancy, they didn't tell me the same time frame with her pregnancy. They didn't tell me who it was, obviously, for HIPAA, but they explained to me that they had just lost another baby that was, the mom was in that advanced stage of pregnancy as well. And so I ended up, it was that I was severely dehydrated and was about to lose him. And so after I had him, I never saw that apparition again. However, I want to tell my son Ben that when a couple of days after he turned a year old, he started having, he got very ill. And right now I'm blanking what it was that he had, but he had a very, very high fever, and he started having the first of what ended up being about 8 or 9 years of his life of seizures. And the very first seizure that he had, which was related to a very high fever, it took the BJAC almost an hour to pull him out of the seizure that he was in. And so his biological dad and I, his biological dad had just come back from, I believe he had been in Iraq that time, had just gotten back like the week before, and then he gets ill, and his biological dad and I, 2 days after celebrating his birthday, get stood behind this glass window pane and get to watch on in horror for almost an hour as they just could not pull him out of this seizure that he had. And so I just remember thinking at the time, please stay, please stay, please stay. And as you can see, he stayed. And so for me, as the blessing and the gift of being his mom, your mom, I've just always known that this kid is an earth angel. Yeah, and I've been telling him his whole life. I thanked him so much for staying. Now, needless to say, the horrifying hour-long seizure left behind for my son some cognitive things which will happen. And despite that, he graduated high school, and within a week of graduating high school, he went right to work. Now, the reason that I asked Ben if I could tell everybody his story and how incredibly connected to spirit I know that I am just from him alone. I mean, I know from many other reasons, but in particular from Ben, and how things have rolled out and played out for him. We have moved, 3 years ago when my now ex and I knew we were going to be getting divorced. We moved us back into Kansas, and I have not been in this state prior to that and able to stabilize in this state due to my own complex PTSD issues, and then just not wanting to be around the horrid, awful energies that I know he and I survived as children. And so lo and behold, as we're coming back home, we're in a rural area, and with, again, our boomer parents, highly, highly mixed in this area. And so it's one of the interesting things about you, Ben, and we say this to him all the time as well, that we know he's light. He is literally an earth angel. He's stayed here to bring the light, and yet we're re-anchored in one of the darkest places ever. And so it's kind of the other way that Rob and I have always known for him and for us, that the mission is clear as we've done our awakenings and things that we care about. For us, is the mission to us is very clear. Him being such a light energy, what do you think happens to him, Rob? You see what happens to him.
When he's around people, I've noticed that he lights the room up. People get a smile on his face. Very, it's like a pleasant feeling to be around him. And he's influenced me at work to be a better person and be he's just round out really good guy, and when you told me that when we first got together last year, and told me a little bit about Ben and everything and what he's been through, and it's as a kid and being a young adult and becoming a man, he's doing a great job.
Yes,
he's very, very polite, well-mannered. Me and him at work, we mess around, have fun, and carry on and laugh at each other and pick at each other. But at the end of the day, and then at the beginning of a new day, we love each other, and he's my buddy, Yes, I'm his, stepdad, and I'm proud to be his stepdad because, he's taught me a lot of things, and he's taught me how to, him and his brother have taught me how to learn to re-love kids. It doesn't matter how old they are; they're still your kids.
They're still your kids.
And I when I go to him, or I'm feeling like some way, I go to him. Or if he's and he feels some way, or he's totally honest and he comes to me and says, Rob, I need to talk to you. And I'm like, okay. Or, and it comes back either an apology or, hey, buddy, we'll figure this out. And and he's, in his own right, he's very counseled, and I have his back. He knows that now, and he, at work, and I'll always have his back, him and his brother, because they're my family now, and I love them like they're my own kids.
Yeah, thank you, baby. And yet I have to say that as much of, it's almost as if you have to be awakened to see clearly that there's a light, and you have to be another awakened light energy, because with Ben, and when Earth Angels, I believe, come to stay with us, you get one or the other. I think our generation would say somebody like Ben is going to force folk that are not awake into deciding whether they are Darth Vader or they are Obi-Wan. And that's kind of the biggest thing with him is lights. And I feel like I'm with you, babe. I feel like with Ben, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, sweetie. With Ben, it goes either one way or the other for him. People either absolutely adore him and they just love that light, or they are coming after that light.
Yes.
With their damn little sabers drawn. So,
yes.
And I'm not shocked, but I mean, we've learned so much as to, and we get so much, I feel like, through him, and we've got a younger child who's like, I'm not spiritual at all, and he thinks he's not spiritual, but he's a master manifester, he just doesn't realize it yet. And so with Ben, we always say, you know what, when we re-anchored in this place, in this location, it's as if we were here, we're grid working, and we brought with us this light angel that we know is just so triggering to the darkness. I mean, I don't know, do I kind of, if I got that right? I mean, people will come to him with the lightsabers drawn and ready to go.
Yes.
And you know that it's the Vader energy, and just... he'll be doing him just happy as can be and working, and then all of a sudden here comes a coworker that, of course, is one of our boomer age parents that is not here to awaken, and just the nasty, vile things that they say to him. And I try to explain to him that, there really is that spiritual connection, that if you think about it, you stayed. After an hour-long seizure that threatened to remove you from this planet, your soul chose to stay, and he just emanates light. And so that's what darkness does. And so we really wanted to share with the viewership Ben's story, and that's how we are inviting some of our other folk that we know are very awakened, and our young ones are very awakened, and we often get told, you know what, they're here to ascend, they're here to bring the light. I literally know I'm sitting next to an Earth Angel. He's what is mine. I absolutely adore this kid, but he absolutely triggers darkness. He only does that simply by walking into spaces where there's dark people, and then all of a sudden, And so I feel like your story is so unique and special, kiddo, that it's just one of those things in helping our Gen X online. Do we continue allowing folk that have not come here to awaken, to rise their levels up? Most likely because, of course, they've taken in too much darkness from the spaces that they came, the histories and things like that they've come in time. Do we allow that to continue, or, what do we do on that? And for me, it all comes down to the why. Rob and I keep getting asked, please do this, please do this. The more we can awaken, the more that we can help people, look in the mirror and say, was that okay to go call this kid that's perfectly compliant, perfectly nice, filthy, nasty, vile names. So somebody that's walked in with the light, and you just decide, are you Vader or are you Obi-Wan? I think is,
Yeah.
you know, and I realized that, babe, because that's what our gen was hit with. If you think about it, like
Oh, yeah.
we grew up because our parents pushed us into juxtapositions. We all grew up knowing either dark or light. And so as our gen awakens, you start learning the gray areas and that ability to step back and say, am I going to let somebody continue hurting these kids that are here to arise? I mean, because he's doing everything in terms of working. He contributes to his society. He contributes to his community. He's not just draining, and yet the dark comes for him every time. Every time the dark comes for him, and so that's what we mean. And I love that you were willing to allow us to discuss who you are. And then he's going to prep us for our twin flame readings, because he's like everybody else, every other normal person that wants love and would like to know, well, where is his other half? And so we're going to explore that in our next video. We're going to go ahead and do a reading because he asked us to do a reading for him, and that's probably how we'll handle anybody that comes and sits. We'll let them either discuss their story. Now for me, he asked me, since I am mom and I know what his story is, to kind of explain his backstory. But moving forward, we'll have, anytime we have a guest, we will plan on basically letting them tell you, the viewership out there, how they know that they're awakened, what their backstory is, how they know what their mission here on the planet is for the rest of us. And it's not lost to me that he's helped you reconnect in ways that maybe weren't there previously with kids.
Yeah.
And then just him, you know, I always say, sweetie, you are such a strong light. Of course you have to get anchored in one of the most darkest places. That's how grid work works, is, you know, Spirit's just going to keep hitting people with, And a lot of the folks around us that do those things during the week are often people that, you know, we know hit the Sunday churches up. That's why the universe is coming back and saying, you think you can come talk to Spirit once a week, and but then during the rest of the week treat ascending angels like that? We don't think so. So we think we're here for some grid work, and we'll do as much as we can. So does that sound about right, buddy? Did I represent your story well?
Perfectly.
Yeah, okay. All right, so we're going to do his twin flame love reading next, because we know he's looking for it, and we want him to look in the right places and be with people that will be loving, supporting, kind to him. Kindness is a huge thing, especially when you have a kind energy, you know. We have a gentle giant here who is amazing.
Yes.
So we're going to do his twin flame. He will be the first.
Peace.